Hello, Miss First. It's right. It's Brad, and today I'll be your host. Are you ready for some strange, unknown, and mystical stories? Today we're going to be covering Arizona, isn't that right, Mr. Mystification?
Yeah. We're covering Arizona, but I don't know where you got the idea that you're going to be the host. We're co-host here, Brad. It's a 50-50 team, buddy.
Until the podcast says Brad's Mysterious Stories.
Brad's mysterious story? I don't know. I guess maybe it's just Brad stories now. This is what happens when he sues you and he takes your company. From the first episode when I used this copyrighted trademark thing. I don't remember what that was, but yes. But yes, we do
How's it
have
going, guys?
Yep, there it is. That's the trademark. How's it going, guys? As easy as 1, 2, 3, and I'm sued. All right, but no, yes, we are doing Arizona, and we got 5 Arizona urban legends for you today. The first one that we are going to be starting with, we're switching it up. Brad's going to be reading first this time, and it's about skinwalkers. Take it away, Brad.
What are skinwalkers?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the host, aren't you?
I'm glad you think so. See, we're making progress.
Yeah. Just read that story, damn it.
The first story is called Skinwalkers. In Navajo legend, a skinwalker is a medicine man who has gone to the dark side and is able to shapeshift into animals and other people. By night, they transform, inflict pain and suffering on just about everything you can find. The following story can be found at liveabout.com. Francis T. Encounter with a Skinwalker. And that was a credit to liveabout.com, just making sure we covered that. All right, good. Let's continue. All of her life, Frances has seen things, heard things, and felt them. Born into a family of sensitives, this was rather normal. In my family, you were considered odd if you didn't experience abnormal things, Frances says. We never talk much about our experiences or our feelings about them. We just accept them as normal, which in fact to us they are. But nothing could have prepared her family for what they encountered on a dark, desolate road in Arizona 20 years ago. It's a mysterious and traumatizing event that haunts them to this day. Frances's family had moved from Wyoming to Flagstaff, Arizona in 1978, shortly after her high school graduation. Sometime between 1982 and 1983, 20-year-old Frances, her father, mother, and younger brother took a road trip back to Wyoming in the family pickup. The trip was a vacation to visit with friends in and around their old hometown. The only member of the family not present was her older brother, who was in the Army and stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The course along Route 163 took them through the Navajo Indian Reservation and through the town of Kayenta, just south of the Utah border in the magnificent Monument Valley Navajo Tribal Park. Anyone who has lived in Arizona for any length of time knows that the Indian Reservation can be a beautiful, if harsh, place for non-natives. Many strange things happen out there. Frances says even my friend a Navajo warned us of traveling through the reservation, especially at night. Along with the warning, Frances' Native American friend blessed the family, and then they were on their way. The trip to Wyoming was uneventful, but the trip back to Arizona along the same route more than justified the warning from Frances' friend. It still gives me goosebumps. To this day, I have a major anxiety attack when I travel through the North Country at night. I avoid it at all costs. It was a warm summer night, about 10 p.m., when the family's pickup was heading south on 163. About 20 to 30 miles from the town of Kayenta was a moonless night on this lonely stretch of road. So pitch black that they could only see just a few feet beyond the headlights. So dark that closing their eyes actually brought relief from the fathomless black. They had been driving for hours with Frances's father at the wheel, and the vehicle's passengers had long ago settled into quiet. Frances and her father sandwiched her mother in the truck's cab, while her brother enjoyed the night air in the back of the pickup. Suddenly, Frances' father broke the silence. "We have company," he said. Frances and her mother turned around and looked out the back slider window. Sure enough, a pair of headlights appeared over the crest of a hill, then disappeared as the car went down. Frances commented to her father that it was nice to have company on this stretch of road. If something went wrong, neither vehicle and its passenger would be alone. Thunder began to rumble from the vast clouded sky. The parents decided that their son should come into the cab before he got soaking wet from any rain that might fall. Frances opened the slider window, and her little brother crawled in, squeezing between her and her mother. Frances turned to close the window again and noticed the headlights from the following car. "They're still behind us," his father said. They must be going to either Flagstaff or Phoenix. We'll probably meet them in Kayenta when we stop to fuel up. Frances watched as the car headlights crested another hill and began its descent until it disappeared. She watched for them to reappear, and watched. They didn't reappear. She told her father that the car should have crested over the other hill again, but hadn't. Maybe they slowed down, he suggested, or pulled over? It was possible, but it just didn't seem to make sense to Frances. Why in the hell would a driver slow down, or worse yet, stop at the bottom of the hill in the middle of the night with nothing around for miles and miles? Frances asked her father. You'd think they'd want to keep sight of the car in front of them in case anything happened. People do weird stuff when they're driving, her father replied. So Frances kept watching, turning around every few minutes to check for those headlights. But they never did reappear. She turned to look one last time. She noticed that the pickup was slowing down. Turning back to look out the windshield, she saw that they were rounding a sharp bend in the road, and her father had slowed the truck to about 55 miles per hour. And from that moment, time itself seemed to slow down for Frances. The atmosphere changed somehow, taking on an otherworldly quality. Frances turned her head to look out of the passenger window when her mother screamed and her father cried out, Jesus Christ, what the hell is that? Frances didn't know what was happening, but one hand instinctively reached over and held down the bottom for the door lock, and the other tightly grabbed the door handle. She braced her back against her small brother and held firmly into the door, still not knowing quite why. Her brother was now yelling, What is it? What is it? Her father immediately flipped on the interior cab light, and Frances could see that he was petrified. I've never, ever seen my father that scared in my whole life, Frances said. Not when he came home from his tours in Vietnam, and not when he came home from special assignments. Not even when someone tried to firebomb our house. Frances' father was as white as a ghost. She could see the hair on the back of his neck standing straight out like a cat, and so was the hair on his arm. She could even see the goosebumps on his skin. Panic was filling the small cab. Frances' mother was so frightened that she began shouting in her native Japanese in a high, squeaky voice as she frantically wrung her hands. The little boy just kept saying, Oh my God. As the pickup sped around the bend in the road, Frances could see that the shoulder dropped off deeply into the ditch. Her father slammed on the brakes to prevent the truck from swerving into a ditch. As the pickup was slowing to a stop, something leaped out of the ditch at the side of the truck, and now Frances could clearly see what had started the panic. It was black and hairy and was eye level with the passengers in the cab. If this was a man, it was like no man Frances has ever seen. Yet despite its monstrous appearance, whatever the thing was, it wore a man's clothes. It had on white and blue checked shirt and long pants. I think jeans, Frances testifies. Its arms were raised over its head, almost touching the top of the cab. This creature remained there for a few seconds looking into the pickup, and then the pickup was past it. Frances could not believe what she had seen. It looked like a hairy man or a hairy animal in man's clothing, she says. But it didn't look like an ape or anything like that. Its eyes were yellow, and its mouth was open. Although time seemed frozen and distorted in this moment of fantastic horror, it was all over within a few minutes. The headlights, her brother coming into the cab, and the thing. By the time the family reached Kayenta for gas, they had finally calmed down. Frances and her father climbed out of the pickup and checked the side of the truck to see if the creature had done any damage. They were surprised to see that the dust on the side of the truck was undisturbed, and so was the dust on the hood and the roof of the truck. In fact, they found nothing out of the ordinary. No blood, no hair, nothing. The family stretched their legs and rested at Kayenta for about 20 minutes. The car that had been following them never did show up. It's as if the car simply vanished. They drove home to Flagstaff with the cab light on and the doors securely locked. I wish I could say this was the end of the story, Frances says, but it's not. A few nights later, around 11 p.m., Frances and her brother were awakened by the sounds of drumming. They looked out his bedroom window into the backyard, which was surrounded by a fence. At first, they saw nothing but the forest beyond the fence. Then the drumming grew louder, and 3 or 4 men appeared behind the wooden fence. It looked like they were trying to climb the fence, but couldn't quite manage to bring their legs up high enough and swing over, Frances says. Unable to get into the yard, the men began to chant. Frances was so scared she slept with her brother that night. Sometime later, Frances sought out her Navajo friend, hoping she could offer some explanation for strange incidents. She told Frances that it was a skinwalker, that he had tried to attack her family. Skinwalkers are creatures of Navajo legend, witches that can shape into animals. The skinwalker attack them was quite unusual. Frances' friend told her, as it had been a long time since she has heard of any activity about skinwalkers, and that they normally don't bother non-natives. Frances took her friend back by the fence where she had seen the strange men trying to climb in. The Navajo woman considered the scene for a moment, then revealed that 3 or 4 skinwalkers had visited the house. She said that they wanted the family but could not gain access because something was protecting the family. Frances was astonished. Why? She asked. Why would the skinwalkers want her family? Your family has a lot of power, the Navajo woman said, and they wanted it. Again, she said that the skinwalkers usually don't bother non-natives, but she believed that they wanted the family enough to expose themselves. Later that day, she blessed the perimeter of the property, the house, the vehicles, and the family. We haven't been bothered by skinwalkers since, Frances says. Then again, I haven't been back to Kayenta. I have gone through other towns on the reservation, yes, at night, but I'm not alone. I carry a weapon and I carry protective ammo.
And that was the first story about the skinwalker and an encounter. So that, I will go and say, first off, we would like to once again thank where we got that story from. So liveabout.com, we'd like to thank you for that story, because that was a creepy story. My goodness, would that be creepy to actually experience?
Yeah, it definitely would probably scare the crap out of me, especially seeing it at night. And your imaginations can go crazy at night, but like when you come face to face with it and you're staring it right in the face, it's kind of hard to ignore any of the features or anything like that of whatever this creature was.
Yeah.
And the fact that the car just disappeared
Just
it almost makes you think that they were following them or something like that.
Yeah, it definitely seems really odd that it just disappeared. And from what I got, like the thing was clinged on to like the window, right? Like the beast or monster, whatever the heck it was like on the side window, just staring at him.
Yep, it was just pretty much standing there, like it towered over the top of the truck. It said,
Yeah, that is. Ugh. Like I said, I would definitely be petrified at that point, and I would probably actually crap my pants. Like, I feel like I might. Like, it's just that scary. Like, that's one of those stories that would just make me probably, you can't even imagine. So,
I don't know. Well, driving past it would probably like make my heart race, and I'd be pretty freaked out. But the second part, having people play drums on my property and like they're trying to get in, like it's like staging like a song for battle or something like that. That'd freak me the heck out. I'll tell you what.
and the
Guns would be out at that point.
Yeah. And but who knows, like, if you could actually do any damage to these things, like, it's, like, who knows, like, if it can just, like, disappear like that and leave no trace, who knows, like, what a gun would actually do to the skinwalker.
I don't know. I feel like it would still leave a trace because it's shapeshifting into animals. It would have to leave an animal track.
Yeah, but in the story it said there was nothing, like, it didn't leave any hair, didn't leave any marks or anything. So it's just...
That was on the truck itself. They never did go into full detail about around the property.
Yeah, that is true. They didn't really give much about the property. I don't know. That would just still be terrifying because, I mean, the lady said the only reason why they were safe because something was protecting them. To hear that alone itself, it's just like, God, like, what the hell? And then...
Well, earlier in that story, too, she said that her friend did bless them before they went. So that blessing alone probably could have just saved them.
So, yeah, any slight thing that they would have changed in their day probably could have ended completely different. So,
yeah, imagine if they would have stopped to try to look for that car.
If they got out in the...
Yeah, if they got out.
Oh, yeah, dude, and
that'd be a couple missing persons case for sure.
That would probably be a missing person case. I don't know. It's just definitely probably be a missing person case. I'd have to do a little bit more research into skinwalkers. Like, who knows if they catch you and they get to you, do they take the shape of you and kind of like, they are shapeshifters.
There's many legends about the skinwalkers. I mean, there are some that stayed out there that it can shapeshift into the person that it either meets or, killed or something along those lines. Again, I'm not an expert on that, on those creatures or the lore behind it, but there are references to it.
So we always got to do our rating system and like what you would rate this on a scare meter, I'll be 100%. I would probably almost have a heart attack. So that's probably gonna be pretty close to like a 9-10 for me. Absolutely. Like, it is scary.
I'd have to say anywhere between an 8 and a 9.
8 and a 9. Oh, Mr. Brave guy over here, huh? No, I can see 8 or 7. Well, you said 8 or 9, right? Yeah, that's still
8 or
pretty
9.
high. That's, I mean, maybe not Gates of Hell, but we're gonna keep referencing the Gates of Hell. But you know, it's still pretty darn scary. The next urban legend that we will be going over is that of La Llorona. The legend of La Llorona, Spanish for the Weeping Woman, has been a part of the Southwest Hispanic culture since the conquistadors. The tall, thin spirit is said to be blessed with natural beauty and long, flowing black hair. She wears a white gown and roams the rivers and creeks, wailing into the night and searching for children to drag screaming to a watery grave. No one knows when the legend of La Llorona began or where it originated. Though the tales vary from source to source, the common thread is that she is the spirit of a doomed mother who drowned her children and spends eternity searching for them in rivers and lakes. La Llorona Kristen Maria was born to a peasant family in a humble village. Her startling beauty captured the attention of the area's rich and poor men. She was said to have spent her days in her humble peasant surroundings, but she would don her best white gown in the evening and thrill the men who admired her in the local fandangos. The young men anxiously awaited her arrival, and she reveled in the attention that she received. However, La Llorona had 2 small sons who made it difficult for her to spend her evenings out, and she often left them alone while she flirted with the gentlemen during the evenings. One day, the 2 small boys were found drowned in the river. Some say they drowned through her neglect, but others say they may have died by her own hand. Another legend says that La Llorona was a caring woman full of life and love who married a wealthy man who lavished her with gifts and attention. However, after she bore him 2 sons, he changed, returning to a life of womanizing and alcohol, often leaving her for months at a time. He seamlessly no longer cared for the beautiful Maria, even talking about leaving her to marry a woman of his own wealthy class. When he did return home, it was only to visit his children, and the devastated Maria began to feel resentment towards the boys. One evening, as Maria was strolling with her 2 children on a shady pathway near the river, her husband came by in a carriage with an elegant lady beside him. He stopped and spoke to the children, but ignored Maria and then drove the carriage down the road without looking back. After seeing this, Maria went into a terrible rage, and turning against her children, she seized them and threw them into the river. As they disappeared downstream, she realized what she had done and ran down the bank to save them, but it was too late. Maria broke down into inconsiderable grief, running down the streets, screaming and wailing. The beautiful La Llorona mourned them day and night. During this time, she would not eat and walked along the river in her white gown, searching for the boys, hoping they would return to her. She cried endlessly as she roamed the riverbanks, and her gown became soiled and torn. When she refused to eat, she grew thinner and appeared taller until she looked like she was a walking skeleton. Still a young woman, she finally died on the river banks. Not long after her death, her restless spirit began to appear, walking the banks of the Santa Fe River when darkness fell. Her weeping and wailing became a curse of the night, and people began to be afraid to go out after dark. She was said to have been seen drifting between the trees along the shoreline or floating on the current with her long white gown spread out upon the waters. On many a dark night, people would see her walking along the riverbank and crying for her children. And so they no longer spoke of her as Maria, but as La Llorona, the Weeping Woman. Children are warned not to go out in the dark, for La Llorona might snatch them, throwing them to their deaths in the flowing waters. Though the legends vary, the apparition is said to act without hesitation or mercy. The tales of her cruelty depends on the version of the legend you hear. Some say that she kills indiscriminately, taking men, women, and children, whoever is foolish enough to get close enough to her. Others say she is very barbaric and kills only children, dragging them screaming to a watery grave. When Petruccio Lugan was a boy, he and his family saw her on a creek between Moore and Guadalupita, New Mexico. As the family was sitting outside talking, they saw a tall, thin woman walking along the creek. She then seemed to float over the water, stared up the hill, and vanished. However, moments later, she reappeared much closer to them and disappeared again. The family looked for footprints and found nothing. They did not doubt that the woman they saw was La Llorona. She has been seen along many rivers across the Southwest, and the legend has become part of Hispanic culture everywhere. Part of the legend is that those who do not treat their families well will see her, and she will teach them a lesson. Another story involves a man by the name of Epifanio Garcia, who was an outspoken boy who often argued with his mother and his father. After a heated argument, Epifanio and his brothers Carlos and Augustine decided to leave their ranch in Ojo de la Vaca to head towards the Villa Real de Santa Fe. However, when they were along their way, they were visited by a tall woman wearing a black tapilo and a black net over her face. Two of the boys were riding in the front of the wagon when the spirit appeared on the seat between them. She was silent and continued to sit there until Epifanio finally turned the horse around and headed back home, at which time she said, "I will visit you again someday when you argue with your mother." In Santa Fe, New Mexico, the tall wailing spirit has been repeatedly seen in the Para building, Public Employees Retirement Association, built on land that was once an old Spanish Indian graveyard near the Santa Fe River. Many people have been employed there, tell of hearing cries resounding through the halls and feeling unseen hands pushing them while on the stairways. La Llorona has been heard at night wailing next to rivers by many, and her wanderings have grown wider, following Hispanic people wherever they go. Her movements have been traced throughout the Southwest and as far north as Montana on the banks of the Yellowstone River. The Hispanic people believe that Weeping Woman will always be with them, following the many rivers looking for children. For this reason, many of them fear the dark and pass the legend from generation to generation. All right, Brad, that was the La Llorona story. Give me your thoughts on this story. What did you think of this story?
It's more of a tragic tale than anything. I mean, it would definitely be pretty creepy to see a spirit just, roaming above the water or something like that. I would have to like double check and be like, am I seeing that right? Like, what is that?
Do the whole rub your eyes thing. Like, is that there? And then it's actually there, and then get pretty creeped out seeing a spirit just like walking, hovering over water, and then like disappearing. Or imagine if you're just like, you do the little eye thing where you rub your eyes, and the next thing you know, she's like right in front of you. Because she can just.
Yeah, that would definitely like put me on high alert if it just magically appeared right in front of my face.
That would scare anybody. I don't care who you are. That's just the thing. I say like, whoa, what the? Yeah. But no, the overall story of La Llorona isn't. It's sad on her part. Like, she was really like mistreated as a woman, and then her sons too. It's just a sad story all around. I feel sorry for him.
A sad case of like just snapping and just losing all self for reality, forgetting what you are, who you are, and forget what you're doing, and nothing makes sense until you finally come back to reality, and then you're like, what the hell did I just do?
And then at that point, it's just too late,
Yeah, there's no going back.
Yeah. I mean, you fortunately hear about that in different crimes nowadays too. People just lose it.
Yep, crippling stress makes them go insane.
Or they do worse things than that, and then they come back and they realize that, oh, they effed up, and then it's just too late. But yeah, overall, like I said, we're gonna go right into the scare one. Like I said, I don't really. It's creepy. Like if she was around you and like if she actually takes children, that is creepy. So on that aspect, I'd give it like a 5 or 6. But based on the story itself, it's not a creepy story. It's not scary. It's just sad and like a sad tale more than anything. So I can't really give that part of the story a rating just because it's more sad. But the spirit part of it with her taking kids and possibly doing all that, I'd say it's a 5 or 6 for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it would definitely be a 5 on the scare meter. If we're just going on the tragic tale, I'd give it like a 3 or 4. Probably right around. I'm just gonna say a 3. But for the actual horror part of it, I'd give it a 5.
5. Yeah, overall, that's a good rating. I'd say it's a solid rating for that. But anyways, we are going to be going on to the third story, which is known as the Mongol Monster. Yeah,
it's Mongol Monster.
It's the Mongol Monster, Brad. I can read somewhat,
For some reason in my mind, it just popped up as Mongolian. I don't know why.
What am I reading? This is all coming from my brain, my big, powerful brain,
Is there brick walls nearby? Yeah, run into them, did you?
Huh? What did you say? No. All right, but anyways, let's get into the story about the Mongol Monster. Mongol Monster, a.k.a. also known as Arizona's Bigfoot. Mongolian Monster is a type of Bigfoot that originated from Mongolian Rim, Arizona. Reports of footprints, video, and hair samples have been documented, but no conclusive evidence has been found to this date. The Mongolian Monster is reported to be a bipedal humanoid over 7 feet tall with inhumane strength and large eyes that some claim to be wild and red. Its body is said to be covered with long black or reddish brown hair, with the exclusion of the chest, face, hands, and feet. Reports claim it has a strong and pungent odor described as that of dead fish, a skunk with bad body odor, decaying peat moss, and the musk of a snapping turtle. It is said that the creature is an omnivore, nocturnal, and very violent. It is generally reported to walk with wide, inhumane strides, leave behind footprints measuring 22 inches in length. It is said to produce whistle sounds or scream and explore campsites during night. It is also believed to consume deer and other wildlife by decapitating them. Reported sightings range along the Mongolian Rim from Prescott, Arizona north to Williams, Arizona, southeast to Alpine, Arizona, south to Clifton, Arizona, and northwest back to Prescott. The oldest known documented sighting of the Mongolian monster was reported in 1903 edition of the Arizona Republic, in which I.W. Stephen describes a creature seen near the Grand Canyon as having long white hair and matted beard that reached to his knees. It wore no clothing, and upon his talon-like fingers were claws at least 2 inches long. Upon further inspection, he noted a coat of gray hair nearly covering his body, with here and there a spot of dirty skin showing. He later stated that after he discovered the creature drinking the blood of 2 cougars, it threatened him with a club and screamed the wildest, most unearthly screech. Another early documented sighting was recounted by cryptozoologist Don Davis. During the mid-1940s, he was on a Boy Scout trip near Payson, Arizona, of which he gave the following account. The creature was huge. Its eyes were deep set and hard to see, but they seemed expressionless. His face seemed pretty much devoid of hair, but there seemed to be hair along the side of his face. His chest, shoulders, and arms were massive, especially the upper arms, easily upwards to 6 inches in diameter, perhaps much more. I could see he was pretty hairy, but didn't observe really how thick the body hair was. The face head was very square sides, and squared up chin like a box. A member of the White Mountain Apache Nation in Arizona by the name of Colette Alefa stated in 2006, "We are not prone to easily talk to outsiders, but there have been more sightings than ever before. It cannot be ignored any longer. No one's had a negative encounter with it," said Marjorie Grimes, who lives in White River, the primary town on the reservation. When asked about her encounter, she reported that it was all black and it was tall. The way it walked, it was taking big strides. I put on the brakes and raced back and looked between the 2 trees where it was, and it was gone. Regarding local reports, Tribal Police Lieutenant Ray Brunette states that a couple of times they've seen the creature looking through the windows. They're scared when they call, he stated. The calls we're getting from people, they weren't hallucinating, they weren't drunk, they weren't people that we know can make hoax calls. They're from real citizens of the Fort Apache Indian Reservation. All right, so that was the Mongolian monster of Arizona. So once again, yep, that is definitely like another Bigfoot type creature. This seems like it's a little bit more aggressive though than like a standard Bigfoot. What would you think, Brad? What do you say about it?
Yeah, it definitely sounds a lot more aggressive. I mean, if I ran into this creature drinking the blood of 2 cougars, I would definitely be like freaked out and like it's time to go the other way. Hopefully it doesn't see me and run like hell.
I'll be real with you. I probably wouldn't want to wrestle this one.
Are you sure you don't want to wrestle that 700-pound beast?
He seemed like he was friendly. It seems like he'd play with you, not just rip you apart. Yeah, yeah. This guy seems like he has a club, man. He's bringing a weapon to a fist fight. That's not fair.
You say also it says that his talons.
Yeah, 2-inch talons on that thing. Yeah, I don't think I can compete with that. Maybe a 700 beast, but not that. That's different. That just hits differently.
You want to have a face. You'd be like shredded meatloaf. Better yet, like a hamburger helper dish gone wrong.
Oh no. But no, anyways, I'm gonna get back to the story. The one thing that I found that would be really, really scary though is if you were camping at night and all of a sudden you just hear like whistling. That would be absolutely terrifying, like just right around your tent, like whistling.
Yeah, I never want to hear any sort of human noises at night. Unless it's like voices I'm familiar with when I'm camping. If it's unfamiliar voices, it puts me on edge, especially since I've been camping a lot.
Look out, Brad, if you start hearing Yeah, that alone is like just a terrifying experience, just to hear like those creepy sounds. So
Oh yeah, especially if you hear wolves when you're in a a tent in a tree, just like a little meat sack.
even worse, like if you're in that area, a grizzly bear or something. Oh my god. But we're getting off topic. But yeah, no, like so that would just the thing that is doing like would be creepy. You know, even I watched some of the Bigfoot shows and like read a little bit about it. They're not I can't say they're all true or anything like that. But supposedly they also do like the whistling and everything to communicate with other ones in the area too. You know, like that's a form of communication for some Bigfoot type creatures. So if they're whistling, there might be another one around. There might be more than just one.
Yeah, the sight of two of these things drinking the blood of cougars.
They're just carrying 4 cougars on their shoulders, drinking them like as they're walking. Oh my god.
No wonder why their population's going down.
We found the issue here. It's these guys. I got my trusty shotgun. I don't know. I don't think that would do much. Yeah, I mean, might, but.
And those its skin might be like have Kepler armor.
But yeah. So let's get into the scare rating, Brad. What would you rate this on a scare meter?
I'd say definitely give it a 6. I mean, other than the whole part of seeing it drink the blood of cougars, if it the rest of it, not so scary. But the blood of cougars definitely puts it at a solid 6. It would have me running the other way.
Yeah, this would be something I wouldn't want to encounter. I don't think it'd be as scary as that skinwalker stalking you, so I would say yes. I would say a 6 probably for this. That'd be a big solid 6. Maybe a 7, just because that would be absolutely frightening as well. A little bit more than a spirit, just because, I don't know, it's an actual real thing. And it's right there. And it could, I don't know. Spirits are scary too to an extent, but I don't know. There's something different about a creature like Bigfoot that is scary.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
All right. We are on to the 4th urban legend of Arizona. The 4th story is known as the Spider Tower.
Is there spiders?
There just might be spiders when it comes to Spider Tower. But let's get into the story and we'll find out if there's actual spiders. In Dead Man's Canyon, a deep gorge lateral to the once populated valley of the Rio de Chile, Arizona, stands a stark spire of weathered sandstone, its top rising 800 feet above its base in a sheer uplift. Centuries ago, an inhabitant of one of the cave villages was surprised by hostiles while hunting in the region and was chased by them into the canyon. As he ran, he looked vainly from side to side, hoping to secure a hiding place. Assistance came from a least expected source. Approaching this enormous object with strength nearly exhausted, he saw a silken cord hanging from a notch at its top. Hastily knotting the end about his waist so that it might not fall within reach of his pursuers, he climbed up, setting his feet into the roughness of the stone and advancing hand over hand until he had reached the summit, where he stayed, drinking dew and feeding on eagle eggs, until his enemies went away, for they could not reach him with their arrows, defended as he was by the points of the rock. The foemen have gone, he safely descended the cord and reached his home. This help had come from a friendly spider who saw his flight from her perch at the top of the spire, and weaving a web of extra thickness, she made one end fast to a jag of rocks. At the same time, the other fell within his grasp, where she, like all of the brute tribe, liked the gentle cave dwellers better than the remorseless hunters. Hence the name of the Spider Tower. That was the end of the story. That was Spider Tower. So it was a very short story, and it was just about a hunter that was getting chased, or a cave person getting chased by hunters. Went up a cliff, survived up there by eating eagle eggs, and is illegal, my good sir. Just saying, that is illegal. I'm sorry, it sounds like a Karen. But I mean, that would be curious. Like, anybody chasing after you, that's a scary thing. I'll say that. So that would be scary, just getting hunted. Anybody who says they wouldn't be afraid being hunted is like, yeah, okay. What do you think of the story, Brad?
Well, I'd say, being chased by anything still going to be pretty scary, especially since they have weapons. The real question I have, though, is how big was this spider? That spider had to be pretty dang big to hoist up, a fully grown human up a giant freaking cliff with nothing but silk.
Yeah, that is true. That thing would have to be massive, dude. This is like Jurassic Park style spider, probably.
It would have been big. That's where I'm curious on. They leave out. They call it Spider Tower, but where's the spider?
How big is this spider? You know how scary spiders are?
I mean, that'd be terrifying to see a giant freaking spider.
Oh,
You ever seen the movie Eight-Legged Freaks?
I have not seen the movie Eight-Legged Freaks.
That's an army of giant spiders. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, definitely sounds scary as hell. So, I don't know.
Story overall, I'd say a 4.
You're saying getting chased by hunters is only a 4? Somebody's trying to kill you?
Okay.
A
When you
5.
put it that way, I guess it would be, I'll give it a 5 then too. But as far as like the mysterious goes, it's
Creepy and mysterious. If we're going based off chase and somebody trying to kill you and murder you, yeah. If that was like a true crime kind of, then yeah, that's a 7 out of 10 for like a true crime scale, like holy shit thing, But mysterious, creepy, story wise, I'd say it's a 5. Still would be creepy to get hunted and somebody trying to kill you. That's always scary. Like we're not counting that out. But it's a 5 for me too. But anyways, that was that story. We have one more story to go over. Would you like to introduce this story, Brad?
The next story is called Horned Toads and Giants. The Marquis have a legend that long ago, when the principal mesa that they occupied was higher than it is now, and when they owned all of the country from the mountains to the great river, giants came out of the west and troubled them, going so far as to dine on them. It was hard to get away, for the monsters could see all over the country from the top of the mesas. The king of the tribe offered the most handsome woman in his country and 1,000 horses to any man who would deliver his people from these giants. This king was eaten like the rest, and the citizens declined to elect another because they began losing faith in kings. Still, there was one young brave warrior whose single thought was how to defeat the giants and save his people. As he was walking down the mesa, he saw a lizard of the kind commonly known as horned toad lying under a rock in pain. He rolled the stone away and was passing on when a voice that seemed to come out of the earth, but that really came from the toad, asked him if he wished to destroy the giants. He desired nothing so much. Then take my horned crest or a helmet. Lallum, that was his name, did as he was bid and found that. In a moment, the crest had swelled and covered his head so thickly that no club could break through it. Now take my breastplate, continued the toad, and though it would not have covered the Indian's thumbnail, when he put it on, it increased in bulk that it corsellated his body, and no arrow could pierce it. Now take the scales from my eyes, commanded the toad. When he had done so, Lallum felt as light as a feather. Go up and wait. When you see a giant, go towards him, looking into his eyes, and he will walk backward. Walk around him until he has his back to a precipice, then advance. He will walk back away until he reaches the edge of the mesa, when he will fall off and be killed. Lallum obeyed these instructions, for presently a giant loomed in the distance and came striding across the plains 1/2 mile at a step. As he drew near, he flung a spear, but it glanced from the Indian's armor like hail from a rock. Then an arrow followed and was turned. At this the giant lost courage, for he fancied that Lallum was a spirit. Fearing a blow if he turned, he kept his face toward Lallum, who maneuvered so skillfully that when he had the giant's back to the edge of the cliff, he sprang at him. And the giant, with a yell of alarm, fell and broke his bones on the rocks below. So Lallum killed many giants because they all walked back before him. And after they had fallen, the people heaped rocks on their bodies. To this day, the place known as Giants Falls. Then the tribe made Lallum king and gave him the most beautiful damsel for a wife. As he was the best king they ever had, they treasured his memory, and after he died, he used his name as a greeting, so that Lallum is a word of welcome, and will be until the giants came again. Yeah, that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
I would say that as the story is a scary, kinda. I mean, but in all reality, I mean, if there were giants, I'm pretty sure it'd scare the crap out of me because I'm like a little ant compared to what they are.
I mean, they only walk a half a mile in a step. Only a half mile.
I mean, they could probably kick you across the continent.
Their kick would be so powerful, you'd be, yeah. You'd just be like vaporized probably if they kicked you, you know? It's done.
That would be pretty crazy.
So that's how ants feel, huh?
Right. I would say, for the story, I'd say 4. I'd give it a 7 for scare. If the whole giant thing. I mean, seeing a giant that would scare the living crap out of me, especially if it was hostile and it wanted to eat me.
Yeah, well, it definitely seemed like it was a hostile thing because it's throwing stuff at him, you know? So it was attacking him. So definitely was a hostile, like, giant. So you definitely...
Well, earlier in the story, it did say that those giants were feasting on him.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be pretty terrifying. I don't know. I would say it's just because I don't know. I'm biased. Yeah, seeing a giant, yes, that'd be scary. So I'd agree. Probably like I'd say 6 for that one. But the story itself, I think it's like a 2. It's not scary really to me. It's fascinating. I'll say it's a fascinating story, an interesting story. But scary wise, I'd say it's like a 2. Not really that scary. Well, Mr. Host, did you want to do this outro then, Mr. Host? Did you want to do the outro? Because you're the host, right?
Oh, of course. I'm glad you finally came to your senses.
Yeah, Brad. How will we have you do the outro this time?
All right, Miss Fires. So that was the 5 Arizona urban legends. A couple of them were pretty scary. I'd say the Skinwalkers definitely. I would probably have took the cake on that one. And don't forget, we are still looking to change that name. And now it's starting to sound like we're gonna do Brad's Mysterious Stories. What do y'all think? Otherwise,
that has no ring.
We're still thinking.
That has absolutely no ring to it. Brad's Mysterious Stories. Come on now. Brad's Mysterious Stories.
All right, Brad's Exotic Mysterious Stories. There you go.
We gotta go with a triple B, bud. Gotta figure out a name for that. You gotta have the triple things that are BBB.
Brad's Emporium of Dark, Exotic, Mysterious Stories.
Too long. It's too long of a title. I can't fit that into a podcast software or podcast hosting site. Can't do that. Sorry, bud.
Sure can.
Yeah, okay. But anyways, before we go, we do have to do one more thing before we get out of here. Don't forget, though, if you have encounter stories, send us an email at mrmystificationx@gmail.com. We have done 3 states so far, and we are going to rank their scariness off the 3 that we've done. So we've done Alabama, Alaska, and Arizona. So what one would you rate to be number 1 for you, Brad? The first scary one now. Do we have a new winner, or would you...
Hold on, let me just get a refresher on that. Alaska definitely had some pretty creepy stories. Like the key is still pretty terrifying. The Kuala Leak is still pretty terrifying. The Skinwalkers are definitely terrifying.
That's not, yes.
I think Alaska's still winning. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking.
If I wouldn't want to see any of these creatures. Skinwalker, definitely. I mean, if I had an army sitting at my doorstep playing battle drums, that would freak the living crap out of me. And that's at your home, so it's up there. It's up there.
I would say Arizona comes pretty darn close to Alaska, but I still think overall Alaska just has a little bit more scary like things in the urban legends, like the key loot and all that. That is pretty darn terrifying. I definitely say though. Arizona is 2, and Alabama's probably going to be 3, because Alabama, unfortunately, only had that one thing that was super scary, the Gates of Hell. But besides that...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's still a whopping 10.
That's still a 10. Haven't hit that 10 marker yet.
Heck, I mean, Alaska could just be winning because our number 4 story, HARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
Oh, my God. That's... yeah. So scary. It could be, but I don't believe. Yeah,
maybe they're controlling you right now.
No, wait, I never thought of that. Help me, Brad. No, but yeah, no. I would say, like I said, 1 is Alaska still, 2 is Arizona for me, and then 3 is Alabama at the moment.
Unless you really see the Gates of Hell, then it wins hands down.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just the one story that's scary for that one. Everything else wasn't that scary, so.
What if you stepped through that gate and couldn't come back?
I don't know. They might just throw me back out to be like, I don't want to deal with this guy. I have such lame dad jokes. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Yeah, you're getting old.
Yeah, tell me about it. But yes, anyways, that was the 5 Arizona Urban Legend, guys. Thanks for stopping on by, and we shall catch you on the next one. Brad, say goodbye to everyone.
All right, everyone.